This is the story of how my friend Veronica and I ended up driving 1,500 kilometers in a three-wheeler around one of my favorite countries in the world. 1,500 kilometers of laughter, breakdowns, friendly locals, and most of all, non-stop adventure in beautiful Sri Lanka. As I had travelled to Sri Lanka many times before over the past few years, I really wanted to make this trip special. Rather than hiring a driver or using public transport, I wanted to take things a little slower. I heard of a company in Colombo called TukTukRental.com and knew straight away this was the adventure I had been searching for. The company would help you get a Sri Lankan driver's license, give you a 1-hour tuk-tuk driving lesson, brief you on everything there is to know about tuk-tuk maintenance, then off you go on your three-wheel adventure. Plus, all tuk-tuks are owned by local families in Colombo, so by renting one you are directly supporting a local family.
Okay guys, this is Imelda. She's our amazing tuk-tuk driving instructor. Are you confident in us?
Confident.
So this is your tuk-tuk, right?
Yeah.
Yes, this is her tuk-tuk. And we're going to be borrowing it for the next 2 weeks, me and Veronica. And yeah, we're ready to go.
To be honest, the prospect of driving a tuk-tuk in Colombo scared the living daylights out of me. And the traffic was so heavy and so chaotic that my travel buddy Veronica was even too scared of the driving lesson itself and made me promise I would do all the driving by myself.
I thought I was slow. This learner driver is even slower than me.
Oh my god, is that what the L means?
Yeah,
the driver?
It's great. We're stuck behind him now.
We set off from Colombo in the late afternoon, struggling with rush hour traffic, one nervous driver, one nervous passenger, trying to navigate our way out of Colombo and north towards the ancient city of Dambadeniya.
Hello! Hello! Mama Houdin!
We had been warned not to drive our tuk-tuk after dark, so once the sun set, we just rocked up to the nearest hotel we could find to spend the night. We were so relieved we had survived our first day with no major problems, maybe bar stalling a few times in the middle of the road and traffic having to swerve around us. And we were excited to set off towards Galle for day 2 of our epic adventure. Google Maps in Sri Lanka doesn't seem as accurate as other places, so kept getting us very lost and quite frustrated. There were also no road signs pointing us to the ancient city of Dambadeniya, but after a few quick stops to chat to locals,
Hello.
Came to say hi.
small breakfast in a small bakery, we finally made it to Dambadeniya and hiked to the top of what was once an ancient and very important place for the Kingdom of Sri Lanka.
So Dambadeniya was the 3rd kingdom of Sri Lanka.
The views were incredible and it was a nice break from the stress of driving.
Oh, I'm so sweaty. Oh, we're officially at the very top of Dambadeniya, ancient city. This is where the king would have once stood, looking over his kingdom of Sri Lanka.
We found a very cute art cafe in Dambadeniya town, serving up home-cooked organic Sri Lankan cuisine, which the very friendly owner showed us how to eat properly using our hands.
So, and then you use your thumb to push the food into your mouth, so.
Okay, correct.
Like this? Your
Correct.
turn.
I'm doing it wrong. I'm just I'm just picking up the easy things so I don't have to do that.
Onwards we drove to Galle for a quick stop to see the famous Buddha statue that sits way up on top of the hill above the city.
Jeez. It is huge. We've got the city of Galle, we've got a lake and then mountains in the distance. Absolutely incredible.
We then drove slightly south again, close to Kandy, as we planned to spend 2 nights in the Pepper Cottage, located close to the Knuckles mountain range in central Sri Lanka.
So we have just arrived at the Pepper Cottage. Guys, how amazingly nice is this? It really feels kind of like a home mixed with like a holiday house.
It feels very homey.
So what do we have over here, Veronica?
We got board games that we're totally gonna play tonight.
Monopoly!
The Pepper Cottage was a blissful escape, and we absolutely adored the 2 days that we spent here, getting to know the local village kids and even going for walks and learning dances with them.
Surangani, surangani tamalu genawa, suralu malu malu me dangena pumalu, surangani tamalu genawa, lajanante me parihana me, vatim pitimala sidinawa, vatim pitimala sidinawa.
We also did an amazing hike at the historic Gala temple, which involves walking through the beautiful Buddhist temple grounds, then hiking up a very steep path for about 45 minutes to one of the best viewpoints in all of Sri Lanka.
This is really beautiful. This is one of the most amazing views I've ever seen. Wow. So Veronica said it best, feels like we're on top of the world.
The owners of Pepper Cottage told us about a river resort they had come across recently, which they thought we would really love, so our mission on day 4 was to end up there. En route, however, we stopped off at the mind-boggling Ambuluwawa Tower in Gampola, climbing right to the top to take in dizzying views of the countryside. It's such a unique place, and while a little off the beaten path, well worth a visit. After getting lost many times and ending up in the wrong village, where we befriended more friendly locals and super friendly kids.
Bye! Bye-bye!
We finally found our way to Galle River Resort. Can you believe we actually slept outside? We were in a bed and woke up to the sound of small waterfalls and the rushing river lulling us to sleep. We awoke to quickly put on our swimsuits and dive into the river less than 10 meters away, by far one of the most unique places to stay in Sri Lanka. Day 5 we set off from Galle Nature Resort en route to Nuwara, but we decided to make a few fun stops along the way. It was also at this stage that I decided that there was no way I could do all the driving for the next 2 weeks, especially as I was also trying to document the trip with daily travel vlogs. I parked the tuk-tuk at the side of the road, jumped out, turned to Veronica and told her, "Your turn to drive." While nervous at first, she quickly found her confidence, and from this day on we split the driving of the tuk-tuk 50-50. Our first stop with Veronica driving, was at Aberdeen Falls, which involved a longer than expected hike down to the base of the falls. Here we hung out with some friendly locals, went for a swim, and then braved the crazy steep hike back up to the top. Our next stop was Hatton, as we were driving through endless tea plantations which looked like a gorgeous sea of green. We also made a quick stop at St. Clair's Major Falls and some of the tea plantations just outside of Nuwara, before finding a cute guest house to rest our heads for 2 nights. We actually only had 1 full day in Nuwara, but it was enough to drive to the stunning Ambuluwawa waterfall, now one of my absolute favourites in Sri Lanka. The drive here was so beautiful, and the waterfall itself just got more and more impressive the closer we hiked.
And this is what I call a view.
We made some doggy friends and honestly spent most of the day just relaxing in gorgeous place. Later in the afternoon, we visited the famous Pedro Tea Estate, did a little tea tasting and walking through the beautiful tea plantations, took a walk around the town of Nuwara, checking out the historic post office, the park and the local market. Nuwara is such a unique place in Sri Lanka, as it feels like a little England, complete with a family-friendly lake park with swan boats. The climate is also much cooler and more enjoyable, especially more bearable than the humidity you'll find on the coast. As in most places, we found a really homely guest house to stay for 2 nights for less than 5,000 rupees a night. On day 7, we set off towards Yala, which actually ended up being one of the quickest drives of our trip, taking less than 2 hours to reach the hillside town known as a backpacker paradise. We found a lovely homestay overlooking the train tracks, walking distance from the town, and had a pretty relaxing first day that involved delicious food, a short walk towards Yala Rock, and then sunset at the 9 Arches Bridge. We also signed up for a cooking course while in Yala, which was great fun. I loved learning how to cook all my favourite traditional Sri Lankan dishes, including 6 different types of Sri Lankan vegetable curry, dal, and even how to properly wash rice. Day 9 had us doing one of the longest drives of our trip. A 3 to 4 hour, fairly boring drive from Yala all the way to Arugam Bay. We had been warned again and again that it was low season in Arugam Bay and that everything was closed and we should not go. Turns out, while it was pretty quiet, the beach was just as beautiful, accommodation was much cheaper, we still found lots of fun things to do. The last thing we imagined we would do while in Arugam Bay was to do a self-drive tuk-tuk safari, but that's exactly what we end up doing. Turns out there's a national park just south of Arugam Bay and a main road goes right through it, so normal people in their cars and tuk-tuks can drive through.
Okay, so we're just driving along. Feels like we're on our own little safari. We're driving south of Arugam Bay. We've seen loads of peacocks and birds. And I literally just looked to the right and I've seen a freaking elephant. There's an elephant just there to the side of the road. This is so crazy. Are you excited to see your first elephant?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Oh my god, so Veronica was excited to see a peacock. She was like, look, peacock. But now there's a freaking elephant just there. Like, our tuk-tuk is here and there's an elephant just there.
After 2 days of beaches and safaris, we continued south down the famous N35 road, famous for being home to rogue elephants. Here we actually had to drive past 3 wild elephants blocking part of the road, an equally exciting and scary experience.
That was so freaking cool! There was like a massive elephant right next to our tuk-tuk. It was amazing. I think Veronica got a little bit scared, but oh my god.
Our final destination of the day was Cinnamon Wild Yala, a hotel sitting right on the edge of Yala National Park and pretty much in the wild. This hotel is famous for sightings of wild elephants coming onto the property, leopards sleeping on the long driveway, and wild boar roaming past the standalone rooms. There's also a large lake next to the hotel, full of chilled out water buffalo and hungry crocodiles. We had a very relaxing 2-night stay here that included a very unique dinner on top of a safari jeep, an early morning safari where we spotted a leopard and 2 wild elephants, and just overall enjoyable hotel experience. With just 2 nights left of our epic tuk-tuk adventure and already over 1,200 kilometers under our belts, we set off along the coast to Dikwella, where we would spend our second last night of the trip eating dinner on the beach and watching hundreds of surfers carve up the waves in this sheltered horseshoe bay.
Good morning guys, for another very sunny day here in beautiful Sri Lanka. Sadly it's actually my second last day, so I'm actually flying home tomorrow. So I'm pretty sad that my trip through Sri Lanka is coming to an end. We are spending our last 2 days here on the coast. Oh, there's a wave coming in. So currently we're in Dikwella. Well, we're at the beach near Dikwella and it is a little surfer's paradise. We're absolutely loving the vibes. So we went for dinner on the beach last night and now we're just walking along the beach looking for a place to go for breakfast.
We passed by so many wild beaches on this driving route, including popular spots outside of Galle and Marissa.
The waves are pretty big and they're coming in pretty fast.
You go fishing here? Just out here? Fish or lobster or... Oh yeah! Just English. Our last night was spent in the historic town of Galle, where we watched the sunset from the old fort walls, walked the entire way around the perimeter of the old town, checking out ancient museums, churches and beautiful architecture, including Galle's famous lighthouse. We also drive up to Hikkaduwa to check out the tsunami memorial there, dedicated to the thousands of people who died in a small village of Dambadeniya, who died when the wave hit a train riding from Colombo to Galle right next to the village, wiping out almost 99% of all residents there. A very sad and difficult place to visit, but worth a stop to donate some money and take a look. And just like that, our 14-day trip around Sri Lanka was over, just as quickly as it started. However, I drove back to Colombo with all the confidence in the world. No fear, no stress, a confident female tuk-tuk driver, proud that she had driven this 3-wheeler just over 1,500 kilometers around one of her favorite countries in the world.